So
No. Go ahead.
but I mean, I don't have. I mean, it's better to just start and you know
Okay. All
that
right.
way we don't have to go. Okay, all that you just said,
Right.
repeat. You know, but yeah. Well,
Yeah, no. So all I have so far is my elk, and I'm trying to finish my Western Slam, and so we leave a week Saturday to go up to Wyoming, and we're gonna hunt more like we were on the extreme western border of Wyoming last time in the Shoshone National Forest, real close to Yellowstone, and now we're like up in the sort of northeast corner of the state, pretty close to both South Dakota and Montana.
wow. And so just chasing antelope and
Just chasing antelope. It's a buddy of mine did this trip 2 years ago, and he killed one that missed book by a half an inch. So
oh man,
he's real mad at him right
yeah,
now.
man, he's like enough.
Yeah, he is vowed not to repeat that mistake. So he's got hate in his heart right now, and a very specific size of antelope that he's after. So
I hear they're just absolutely a freaking blast to hunt. They're about as close to hunting birds in wild game as you can get.
yeah, it is. You know, he's like the first day or two. So we're actually getting there the day before. Actually, we're getting there a day and a half before the season opens, and he's like, we're gonna look. We'll set up camp kind of middle of the day on Sunday, then on Monday, like Sunday evening, we'll scout close to camp. All day Monday, we're gonna go all over the place. There's the unit that we're in is sort of a crazy quilt of state land, federal land, and tons of private. It's only like 25% public stuff. So there's a lot of hopscotching that we're going to do with the truck, kind of getting in between these units that we can access publicly. But there's a couple of patches of contiguous, just crazy, weird, like contiguous pieces of BLM and state property that connect. And this buddy of mine, Mark, that hunted this place 2 years ago, he's like, if you're inside of the road, you'll see a ton of people. All you have to do is just get one ridge over. And nobody's there. Like, nobody's taking the walk. So we've got a couple of big contiguous patches where we can actually get 4 or 5 miles away from the truck and get where we're never going to see another person. We might spike out one night. We don't know.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I mean, an antelope hunt is. I'm really interested in doing one. I'm chasing elk right now. I've got an elk and mule deer sickness, so.
Right, and so after I do this, I'll have my mule deer to
chase down
and finish this whole show off, which will make my wife super happy because if there's one thing she loves, it's Western taxidermy.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know.
You can visit my Instagram at 3curl and see exactly how much wall space an elk shoulder mount occupies in a one-story house.
Yeah, I'm like thinking how if you shoot a bull, then you're like you got to have like the heads at like thigh level, you know.
Seriously, the bottom of the chest of this thing is about belly high on me, and I have high ceilings in my office.
Yeah.
I have 9-foot ceilings in my office, and he takes up about 6 of them.
Well, my brother and I leave to go on an over-the-counter rifle hunt in like 28 days.
Nice. Where
at? Colorado, southern Colorado. So we're going to fight the Orange Army and see how it goes. But it's just we're super pumped about it. And our goal is just to see an elk. If we see an elk, year one, first time ever hunting, out completely by ourselves, you know.
Right.
Couple Texas boys to just lay eyes on elk. That'll be a success for us.
We have a real good friend. He's a core member, one of the foundational members of our duck hunting group, who is a very good whitetail hunter, and did a lot of online studying. On the way to an over-the-counter elk unit in Colorado, and came back and admitted, man, we didn't learn shit until we got there.
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing too. Is like you prepare, and At least I've been in Colorado a couple of times in the backcountry on just kind of like hiking, camping trip.
Right.
So I kind of have that vision of the ass kicking that I'm in for. So we at least are going in with that to just understand we're going to get our ass kicked.
As a Texas guy, the thing that and he's from Oklahoma, so kind of as this part of the world,
exactly.
Flatlander, part of the world, where you've spent your entire life, hunting whitetails, you have to divorce yourself from almost every scrap of knowledge that you have, because none of it applies.
Yeah.
Like all this business about choke points and edge cover, and it does not translate to what happens when you're at 7,500 feet and higher.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. We're going to 11,000 and work our way down, and that's like,
holy shit, you guys are getting up there.
Yeah. So
wow.
Depending on what the weather does, we're planning on starting high because, obviously these elk have been just pressured to no regard for a month of September.
Right.
There's, already been one rifle season by the time we get there. So they've been shot at with sticks and they've been shot at with bullets.
Yep.
So we figured as long as it's not snow like crazy, and we've been watching the weather every day, and it's so far it's just been pretty much rain and mix even at elevation. You're going to be up high, and so it's just suck it up and get up there. And
it's here's the ray of hope that I'll hold out for you. This buddy of mine that thought he was pretty confident that he had this whole show wired tight, and then just threw his whole playbook out the window once they got there. They actually managed to get within 100 yards of elk twice, and they were archery hunting.
Yeah.
And just he said that both times that they couldn't close the deal were very instructive. So
yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, so especially bow hunting. That's why we kind of decided to go with rifles for the first time, because we thought, all right, there's a little bit of forgiveness there from, all right, I don't need to be 30, 40 yards from you. I can be, about 400, and I'm good, and be safe. But, it's still, even then, you're still dealing with, like, post-rut elk, which are, like, pressured and they're in a little bitty window, so you've got to go in and find them. But we've done like you said, Mike Tyson says it best. Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth,
100%,
right?
100%.
But we've got plans A through ZZ, and so we're sticking and moving. So I told my brother, we're going to go in. We're taking 3 days worth of food on our back. That's it. And if we don't see elk, we're out of there. Just stick and move. So if we get in there and we're not seeing elk, we're seeing a ton of hunters, put the backpacks on and go back to the truck, move to spot B, and just kind of try that. And
that's almost exactly how our elk hunt in Wyoming went. We rode up to, we're real near the thoroughfare in Wyoming, and there's a pass that our guide has killed elk off of that basically comes out of Yellowstone. And so we rode up to like 10-7 the first day of the hunt. Big boy ride. We're on horseback, ride up this mountain on some trails that hadn't been used in a couple of years. And we get up there, and it's a big catcher's mitt full of snow. And the elk have been there 24, 36 hours prior.
Yeah.
On their way through and headed lower. And so we basically worked our way down. And it took us 3 more days before we found them down around, it was about 7,800, and about 5 valleys down from where we started before we finally got into elk. And when we found them, it was, there's 2 good herd bulls, there's 4 or 5 satellite bulls, and there's 40 or 50 cows. Just there's elk
right
everywhere.
There.
Yeah, we found them kind of mid-afternoon, sat and watched them for a while. They were basically, we're on one side of a valley and they're on the other. And the guide asked me, he's like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here and come back in the morning. I'm ranging this one really good bull. He's at 685, and I said, so let's just say that I was even capable of that shot. I'm
Yeah.
not, but let's say I was. What happens then? He goes, oh, man, we ride off this ridge, get down into the river, go down to that ridge, ride back up. He's like, we'll get to him. This is probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He's like, we'll get to him about midnight,
Jesus.
and we'll get back to camp around sunrise. And I was like, yeah, let's get out of here.
let's
And I killed my bull 15 minutes, maybe less than 15 minutes after I got off my horse the next morning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing to me. I think the adage that I've heard has always been finding the elk during like a rifle season is the hardest part. If you can find an elk, most of the time you can kill an elk.
Yeah.
But you got to find him first, and that's the ultimate. I mean, assuming that you can shoot,
We
out
spent
past
4 days looking, looking.
just
Full, and I mean full days.
lots of trees.
Leaving in the dark, coming home in the dark.
Yeah.
You're catching maybe 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And back at it and just glassing and riding and glassing.
I'm preparing full-heartedly because I leave on the 17th of October, and I'll be gone until that Sunday. I come home. I'll be home that Sunday or Monday, and I leave Tuesday for Mexico with the wife. So it'll be come home and throw all the stuff in the garage, get in an airplane, and go sit on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. We leave on a Saturday, get home the following Sunday. So I'll have been out of the office for a week, so we'll see what's on with
just what fires you have.
Yeah, I was about to say about 3/4 of my shit will be upside down on fire on Monday. And then on Wednesday,
I forgot what we do here. You're like,
right.
What?
And then on Wednesday, I turn around and leave and go down to our house in Rockport. We're having a bunch of friends for Texas OU weekend. So, so whoops.
Yeah, that was the thing. My wife was like, hey, would you care if we leave like a day or so after you get back? I'm like, I guess not, So, hey, it's perfect way to go recuperate. So I've been putting in all my time in the office right now trying to play catch up. And so I basically told my manager, I was like, I'm gone for 2 weeks. So
yeah,
good luck.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm starting to prep my customers and prep my suppliers for me being gone. I only pull that party trick once every other year where I spend a week where I'm
incommunicado.
Absolutely off the edge of the planet. Yeah. That's about as much as, as my business can sustain.
I mean, that's the thing when especially you own in your own business. It's just like I can't imagine trying to leave for a week. You're just like you're almost
closed.
You're closed. Yeah, there's nothing going
100%.
on. You can do all the things that you can do, but I mean, heaven forbid there's an issue. It's just
I have a couple of suppliers that are sort of my emergency on call. So hey, if something really catches on fire while I'm gone, then you can step in and take care of it.
Yeah.
I'm told that there's 2 ridges that I can get to the top of, and I can pull a couple of bars. So I may try to check in.
Like,
yeah.
Fuck, I don't want to deal with this.
Oh, I'm not answering anything unless it is a huge problem.
Exactly. Here's the deal. Do not use this as the subject line unless you are absolutely dead.
100%.
And that's the thing is, if your clients are like mine, where you're like, all right, guys, here's the deal. In 30 days, 60 days, I'm going to be gone for a week. We're good, man. We're good. And then it's like, hey, man, I need something. You're like, really?
Next Friday is going to be the shit show of shit shows. I promise. I promise it will be. Because people, oh, my God, I totally forgot. Well, I've been telling you for, like you said, I've been telling you for a month. But okay.
Sure. Yep, that's the way it goes. So, fortunately for me, I do have a backup. So I can be like, Alice, I owe you, like, some drinks and dinner when I get back. Because good luck and good night. Because you're not reaching me.
My wife is my wife is the North American CFO of a gigantic company, and she's also my CFO of my tiny little company, and she actually started taking orders while I was gone on my elk hunt. She's like, I have no idea what I was doing, but one of my best supplier, probably my best supplier, was coaching her through it, And I was like, hey, good job, babe.
You did wonderful.
You crushed it.
You're now the COO as well.
Right.
So.
She's like, I am never doing that again. Your job is bullshit. I was like, whatever, dude. Like, you account for a living, so I failed accounting twice.
And that's the thing. I'm a financial consultant at my company, and so I think about it a lot of times when I'm in the middle of something and I'm dealing with a client, and I'm like, oh, well, you got to think about it this way, and they're like, oh my God, that's so smart. And I'm like, if only my elementary teacher, who was like, you should do social studies,
right.
Like you should do art, something not math related, and I'm somehow in that now. I'm always like, what the hell?
Oh, I logged on to QuickBooks today. And I swear to God, I'm using QuickBooks Online, so it's a browser-based version of QuickBooks. And I open it up, and Chrome asks me, "Would you like me to translate this page?" And it's like, how did you know I'm an idiot?
Yeah. Thank you, Chrome, for knowing. Thank you,
thanks.
Chrome.
Cool,
Thank
man.
You
got my college transcript.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I guess we've already started, but we're joined again by Brian Donovan.
Hi, everyone.
We are going to be talking about, something that it just seems to be popping up more and more, with like places like the Pebble Mine and just this balance of, kind of progress and commerce and keeping things wild in wild places. And so we're going to chat with Brian about this whole VLCC terminal, and we're going to get into what that means, because that's a term I learned, an acronym I learned in kind of looking into this thing.
I told you it was a weird and interesting situation. It is, and the Pebble Mine is a great example of what's been going on, time immemorial, but it seems like the pace of it is increasing, where you have industrial interests that are just absolutely steamrolling the regulatory process to push through things that are clearly against the public interest.
Yeah.
And so the VLCC terminal that you're referring to is, I mentioned earlier that we have a house in Rockport. This is the Harbor Island VLCC terminal, and VLCC stands for Very Large Crude Carrier, which is a giant boat that can carry 2 million barrels of oil. And they want to put a terminal that will accommodate 2 of these ships, literally directly across from the marina, right across the channel from the marina in Port Aransas. And no one in the world thinks this is a great idea except for the Texas General Land Office and the Port of Corpus Christi, who's behind the project.
Yeah.
And there has been a huge public outcry against this thing, and it's being dismissed by the port as just a few hippie nutters who don't like oil. Evidence would suggest otherwise.
That's the thing. That's one of the things I really want to talk about is this. It seems to be this growing faction of, like, you have these people who are like, no. Like, anybody who knows you would laugh out loud if somebody called you a hippie. Right?
Yeah.
And so the fact, and that's this whole, like, this isn't just like some New Jersey cat lady who's like, no, man, this is people who enjoy the outdoors. These are conservative, these are people who would not traditionally, you would not put into the camp of somebody who would be, quote, an environmentalist.
I own 80 acres in the Panhandle that is leased for oil exploration.
Exactly. Where it's right, do it. Where it's not, don't. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think it's definitely something I really want to chat with you about today. Is just kind of that balance of commerce and growth and versus keeping things like this.
Right. There's a time and a place for it, and I am all for the oil industry, and that's one of the most infuriating things about this is that there's an option where everybody wins, and that's to put this VLCC terminal. You can build these as offshore buoys. And as a matter of fact, there's a project that's been proposed that the Port of Corpus Christi supports for Phillips 66 to build one 21 miles east of Port Aransas offshore. And so what can happen is, so here's the sort of the top-down view of what they want to do with this Harbor Island port is you're going to have to remove about 80 million cubic yards of dredge material to make room for these 2,000-foot-long ships. And you're going to have all the infrastructure to support that. You're going to have a pumping station. You're going to have storage for at least 4 million barrels of oil at 3 feet above sea level, which is always a really good idea. That's worked out superbly in the Bahamas, where this last hurricane blew the top off some crude storage tanks. And what I compared it to earlier with you was like a drooly dog hanging his head out the window.
Yeah.
Blue oil 3/4 of a mile downrange from the storage tanks. These things are beautifully bermed. They have a containment system in case there's a leak, but what they don't accommodate is a 200-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about building these storage
tanks.
Which
seems to be happening more and more.
We've had a run of some pretty decent hurricanes here in the last 10 years or so, and they sure do like to hit heavily populated areas with a lot of oil infrastructure, which basically describes the entire Gulf Coast. I mean, it's pick a place on the Gulf Coast, and you're going to find refining capacity, you're going to find shipping capacity, you're going to find storage capacity, and it's all right there at the water's edge, where both the storm surge and the wind are going to be the worst. But the problem with this terminal is they've got to remove all this material. This 80 million cubic yards of material to make room. They're going to have to dredge the shipping channel out to 75 feet, which is currently like 56 feet. So you dredge the channel out, and then you actually cut into the islands to make 2 berths for these ships. And when you do that, you have a big problem. You have big problems with the dredge. The dredge material itself could well be toxic. You've already had, and I don't mean that in the woo bullshit sort of Jenny McCarthy, food babe meaning of the word toxic. I mean that you can have actual petrochemical sediment down in that dredge material that is kind of okay as long as you don't stir it up, but now you're putting it in a KitchenAid stand mixer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So back in hang on just a second. I got to refer to my notes. Back in 1988 and 1989, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service contaminants program did some dredge cores around Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, which is pretty far north in that sort of bay complex, that Port Aransas, Rockport, Fulton, kind of Copano Bay, Aransas Bay complex. And they found organochlorines and petroleum hydrocarbon contaminants that were 200 to 500% higher in those spoil sediments than comparable sediments from elsewhere in the bay. So if you stir up any contaminants that are in that dredge material, those are gonna by tidal action travel throughout that bay system. You're basically talking about a contiguous bay system that runs from the JFK Causeway that comes out of Corpus Christi and goes over to Padre Island, all the way north into like the St. Charles Bay complex on the extreme northern end up by Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. The other problem is the sediment itself. Just that fine, silty dredge material will cloud that entire bay complex, again, by tidal action.
Yeah.
And so what you've got, there's 235,000 acres of seagrass in the state of Texas. 32,000 acres of that, more than 10% of that, is located in the Redfish Bay State Scientific Area, which is right behind this proposed VLCC terminal.
Okay.
So when they start dredging, you're going to have all this dredge material will go into that bay system, and through turbidity in the water, meaning just sheer sediment in the water.
Just for somebody who's kind of like going like, what is this dredging process? That just means you're sucking this dirt up out of the ground.
You are. It's
right.
Imagine running a backhoe underwater. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're dredging up this extremely fine talcum powder dredge material.
Think about just dragging your feet.
Right.
When you're in
anybody that's ever weighed fish and looked behind them has seen those clouds
of
sediment.
And that's just you walking.
Right.
You know?
Imagine that, except 50 or 100,000 acres
Infinitely
of that.
more.
Right. So you create turbidity, cloudiness in the water, which shades that seagrass and harms it, and then you actually have precipitation of that dredge material onto the leaves of the seagrass, which further hampers its ability to live.
Yeah.
And so it'll kill that seagrass.
Yeah.
It'll kill one of the most pristine and important bay complex systems in the world. And that's not hyperbole.
No, yeah, I mean,
you don't have big contiguous multi-tens of 1,000-acre stretches of seagrass in a lot of places in the world, and that supports not only all of our inshore sport fish species, it supports sea turtles, it supports all kinds of crustacean life, our shrimp and our crab. So not only are you harming the recreational fishery, you're also harming aquaculture, your commercial fishery in that entire bay complex. This is a 50, 60-mile run of bay that's 10 miles wide in places. It's hundreds of square miles of bay. And that entire area, the interesting thing about that entire area, that whole bay complex is actually the Mission Aransas National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is we'll call that NER. That's a NER. It's a NER from now on. National Estuarine Research Reserve. There's only 28 of them in the United States. The Mission Aransas NER is the only one on the Gulf that's west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
It's run by the University of Texas Marine Science Institute in Port Aransas, but it's sort of overseen by a huge number of government and NGO organizations, from Fish and Wildlife Service and Parks and Wildlife to the Nature Conservancy and the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuary Program. And so this whole thing is literally a pristine bay system laboratory. It's used as a test bed for what a healthy, functioning bay complex looks like.
What it should be.
That's exactly right. And that's the reason there's only one west of the Mississippi in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's it. And now they're not only are they talking about building this VLCC terminal right there in Port Aransas, they're also talking about Axis Midstream Holdings is talking about running two 42-inch pipelines and one 12-inch pipeline and one 6-inch pipeline and one 2-inch fiber optic line straight across the Redfish Bay State Scientific Area, which anybody that's listening that's ever fished down there knows that Redfish Bay is a prop-up area, right? You are not allowed by state law to disturb any of the seagrass that's on the bed of that bay, and it's a very shallow bay. There's places in there that you had better be in an extremely shallow running boat if you're going to be running through there, because you've got 80 inches of water and you can't disturb the seagrass while you're running.
Which means you're not probably running in most places unless you're in an airboat.
There's a lot of airboats in parts of that bay complex.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's where you see basically Hell's Bays and airboats that can run and not upset that grass. So you have sort of dual threats, and the we've talked about the dredge problem with the VLCC terminal. The pipeline is going to be 4,250 feet of pipeline bundle, and they say they're going to install most of it with directional drilling, which, okay, great, awesome, yay, technology. But some of that installation is going to require a 75-foot wide open trench, and they're going to have temporary stockpiles of dredge material, which is a real fancy way of saying you're going to create more dredge islands adjacent to that trench. And so you're going to tear up basically 16.5 acres of seagrass beds and tidal flats. And this is in a bay system that is nothing but seagrass and tidal flats. And then you have that dredge precipitation problem that's going to carry through the whole bay system while you're digging
exactly.
that
It's not just like it doesn't just rain straight back down, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That stuff, I'm not kidding when I say it's talcum powder fine.
Yeah, I mean,
and again, anybody that's ever been down there has cleaned that shit off the bottom of their wading boots, and they know exactly what it's like.
Exactly.
And it carries forever, especially on a moving tide.
And it just seems like you said, that there's so many other options to do this that I just doesn't make any sense, right? It's the Pebble Mine thing again. Why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. There's a time and a place for things, but this is not the place for this. And
there is the Pebble Mine. The Pebble Mine is it's a great analogy for this VLCC terminal, because this is the thing that is super aggravating to me. So the Port of Corpus Christi, their economic justification for this VLCC terminal at Harbor Island, and I'll get back to Pebble Mine. I'm going to loop around. So it'll be a little bit of a long way around, but I talk a lot, so ask my wife. They're estimating that thing will create $2 to $4 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Over 50 fucking years.
50 years.
50 years. The recreational economy in Port Aransas alone, that doesn't even include Rockport, where my rental house is, Fulton, up into Holiday Beach, down into Ingleside. Just Port Aransas outdoor recreation economy is $400 million a year. The math doesn't math.
That's
again. Like I said, I failed accounting twice, but I'm not that dumb.
I can do some basic stuff, you know. And that's the thing. I really think like you said, we get into this conversation where I think a lot of people go, well, you know, you got to understand, we got to have jobs, we got to have this. There's a growing, but you know, there's a lot of jobs that you're going to lose. I mean, you're going to gain 300 jobs, but you're going to displace thousands of people.
That is correct.
Not just people who guide fishing, but people who put people up who go out on guide fishing.
Exactly
Restaurants
right.
for people that go and eat after they come off the water. You know, so
again, I'll mention that yes, I definitely have a vested interest in this. I own a short-term rental in Rockport, Texas. This is a direct economic threat to me. But the reason that I own a house in Rockport is because I have fished there for 3 decades, and I'm gonna retire to that house.
Yeah,
that area is that's my heart, man, and it hurts my heart to have people trying to really trying to just tear up one of the last best places in Texas for what amounts to, in the long term, pocket change.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. We're not talking about billions of dollars over. We're not talking about something that's going to change the state of Texas at all. This is not even going to be. This is pocket change. This is nothing in our industry, in the oil and gas industry. And then, like you said, I'm with you. I'm very pro oil and gas, but there's a time and place, and you can do it when you need to do it. But I mean, like I said, go 21 miles, go 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, whatever, offshore. Stick the pipeline out there, because we may talk about that as kind of the option that these guys have that they're kind of ignoring.
Right.
But this doesn't make any sense, and it's a domino effect, right? So there's no way that the company who's wanting to do this, who's kind of said, hey, here's what we've done as a study, here's how it's going to work, that's a fart in the wind compared to what's really going to happen.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Here's just within, let's call it a half an hour boat ride from the Fulton boat ramp. The attractions are the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, which is a huge one. That's where the majority of the whooping cranes in the world winter.
Yeah.
We have Mustang Island State Park. You got the Lighthouse Lakes Paddling Trail behind the Lydia Ann Lighthouse. Beautiful piece of water that is only accessible by paddle. It's a pristine back lake ecosystem that shares a border with the VLCC.
So that's pretty much done.
Yeah, if you are looking at a map, you would go Port Aransas Marina, like the public boat ramp there at the marina. Straight east of that would be, straight west of that would be the VLCC terminal, and a straight west from that is the paddling trail, is the Lydia Ann and those back lakes and that paddling trail.
And somehow that a ship that carries 2 million barrels of oil, which I've been sitting here since you said that. I'm trying to think.
And it's 300 yards long.
That's 300 yards long.
And change.
Exactly. That's if you think about that, that is going to be out there. Do you think
the displacement on that ship is the reason that those things sit? So here's the reason they want to dredge the channel from the existing 56 feet to 75 feet. Right now, what's having to happen with VLCCs in Texas is they will partially load those things on shore, then they'll send them out to the Gulf to a buoy VLCC where they can top off because they're sitting so low that we don't have channels to accommodate them.
Deep enough.
Yeah, so that's the reason they want to dredge that channel. But so aside from the Lighthouse Lakes, you've also got the Redfish Bay State Scientific Area. You have the Great Texas Coastal Birding Trail, which is home to 215 species. It's one of the most biologically diverse avian pieces of real estate in the world.
Yeah.
You've got the Leona Bell Turnbull Birding Center, and then you have, basically all of our bays there, which is, Aransas Bay, Copano Bay, St. Charles Bay, Redfish Bay. It's
the list goes on.
It's
a disheartening thing to deal with. I think, like I said, just because I feel with the way that things are moving, like you said, with this just breakneck process of moving through regulatory, really giving no one any way to stand in this. You try, but it's as if you're trying to stop a bus on the highway and you step out in the middle of the lane.
It's exactly right.
And
that's exactly right.
That to me is something that we've
got
to fight for. We got to figure out a way to put more bodies in front of it and just know that
something is systemically wrong with the way the regulatory approval process works for some of these projects. And you have that institutional inertia from these regulatory agencies, and here's the thing. Whichever direction the political pendulum is swinging at the time is the inertia for the regulatory agencies. Right now, it is extremely pro-industry.
Yeah.
And it's at the extreme end of the swing, the pro-industry swing. There is 100%, and there are organizations that support the pendulum swinging radically back the other direction, where you don't drill for or build shit ever.
Yeah.
And for me, a happy medium is, again, take this thing offshore.
Yeah.
We can load tens and tens of millions of barrels, of oil offshore in this very new phenomenon of the United States being a net exporter of petroleum, and we can still get that win. We can still notch that win without fucking up one of the things that's in a basket, a smaller and smaller basket of beautiful, wonderful things that can never be rebuilt or replaced.
Yeah. We can get more oil to more people, we can get more oil to more people, but we can't get more pristine seabeds,
It's you were talking about, the entire reason that it's illegal to upset seagrass is because it takes so ridiculously long for a seagrass bed to heal itself from something like a prop scar, right? So you're talking about a 14, 16, maybe 19-inch wide scar that takes a decade to heal itself. Now you're talking about basically silting out tens of thousands of acres of that. It will never recover. It will never recover.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, that stuff is so fragile. It takes so long to grow, and it takes such a serendipitous set of soil conditions, light conditions, water clarity, tidal movement to flourish. It can never be replaced. It's the reason that we kill snow geese by the mountains.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wants us to kill every snow goose that we see, is because of the fragility of that upper Hudson Bay habitat and the decadal timeline for recovery, if that habitat can ever be recovered.
Yeah.
And whether it can ever be recovered is sort of an open question.
Sorry for the interruption, but we want to talk about something that's very important to the Stormwater Creek crew, and that is Prop 5. Prop 5 is a ballot initiative. It'll be on the ballot on November 5th, Election Day, to dedicate an existing sales tax on sporting goods to force the state to allocate those dollars to Texas Parks and Wildlife. This will help with the $800 million maintenance deficit that our Texas park system has. It'll help push dollars for the state to be able to lease additional lands, which will increase your opportunity to go out and recreate. It will give the state vital dollars to help with everything that they do, and they do a great job in this state. So make sure you go out on November 5th, bring a friend, and go vote for Prop 5. We make sure you vote yes. That's the most important thing. You got to vote yes for it. But this is an important thing and something that everybody should talk about. Thanks for listening.
I was talking about it. You have a multi-decadal recovery period, if it can ever be recovered. Just how ridiculous it is to industrialize this little plot of paradise.
And I think that's the thing. And what we started off with first of the podcast, kind of talking about the fact that this seems to be a kind of a growing epidemic. And I don't know if it's maybe it's not necessarily a growing epidemic. Maybe the fact is we're just running out of places to put shit like this. And
we're not. And that's the thing. We are not out of bandwidth for places for industrial growth. And like I said, I'm not anti-growth. I'm not even anti-industrialization.
Yeah.
I just think that there's a time and a place for a lot of this stuff, and there is no reason to dig up half of Harbor Island to put in a VLCC terminal when that can be a buoy 20 or 30 miles offshore.
And it's fine. Yeah.
I understand that complicates the logistics, and I'm sure that it adds to the cost of shipping a VLCC.
But they're going to make $2 billion. It's just, I get it too, but.
And it's funny. The wording that I keep running across is $2 to $4 billion in revenue during the next 50 years. Even if that's an annual number, it's still not worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly.
Still not worth it.
So, I mean, one of the things I'm really interested in is just, okay, so we basically have kind of like, if we divide this up into kind of to the sides, right? So we have basically any human being who lives there against it versus the company who wants to do it.
It's the town of Port Aransas. So, and here's how petty shit has gotten. And spoiler alert, I'm on the side of the Port Aransas City Council, who placed a 60-day moratorium on this project. This is always a red flag, shady government shit deal to me, or not even government, just shady regulatory shit, red flag to me. They placed a 60-day moratorium on the project because part of Harbor Island actually lies inside of the Port Aransas city limits. The shady shit's not the city of Port Aransas. They have a vested interest in protecting the quality of life for the people that live there.
Which is what they're doing.
The port.
Or trying to do.
The port.
Yeah.
Owns the marina, which is a critical part of the Port Aransas economy. If you've ever been there, between Memorial Day and Labor Day on a Saturday morning, there's 250 boats put in at that marina on any given morning. So the city leases that from the port. The port, because the city of Port Aransas put a 60-day moratorium. 60 days. 2 months.
Just said, hey, boys, let's slow this thing down.
Let's pump the brakes. Back her down 20%. We need more information. We don't have enough information to understand how this is going to impact the quality of life of our citizens and how this is going to impact the local economy. So let's pump the brakes for 60 days. The port turned around and immediately filed a countersuit and revoked the lease for the marina in Port Aransas.
So this is where it gets interesting to me. On how are they justifying that? Like what is their deal?
So there is a clause in that lease agreement that says that if the city of Port Aransas does anything to materially harm the business interests of the port, that the port can revoke the lease. Okay.
Which
sure.
when they sign it, they're like,
right.
Why would we ever do that?
And
we're all friends here.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So this strong arm tactic of revoking the lease on the port of Corpus Christi and the city government of Corpus Christi have like a symbiotic relationship, basically. And this has now caused the mayor of Corpus Christi to get involved and say, hey, boys, the optics here are real shitty.
Yeah, we're not.
You guys do not look great. And if anything, you just poured gas on this fire because now not only are people in Port Aransas pissed off, but people in Corpus Christi are like, why would you do that? Because there's a ton of recreational users. Port Aransas.
I can't go to the boat. I can't go put my boat in.
Recreational users from Corpus Christi.
And most of those people, I'm betting, are not finding out by being informed. They're pulling up to the boat ramp, going.
Well, no. As far as I know, I'm 99.9% sure that the ramp is still running while this litigation is ongoing. So, but if the port prevails,
there's not an old boy dragging a chain across the road.
If the port prevails, they can shut down, which is also kind of fucked because you have to go through the marina to get onto the ferry. If you've ever left Port Aransas on a Sunday afternoon, you've sat in that line, which goes right through the marina. So I'm right now. I'm ad-libbing. I'm not sure if that would actually affect ferry traffic. I'm sure,
but
I would hope that the ferry has some kind of a right away or something.
Yeah,
but I mean it's petty and it's stupid and it was a minor inconvenience. But this is that. It's what we were talking about. This industry bully. We are going to get our way. We don't care what anyone thinks, and the regulatory agencies are supporting that.
Because they're, and this is my thing is I guess they're just supporting it just because it's money.
Because Texas is an oil state. I mean, like I said, should I have an oil lease?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the last guy to be talking out of my ass about.
Yeah, ban barrel.
Exactly. Like, no, I hate oil.
Yeah.
I fucking love oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Oil's great.
Exactly.
But I don't hey, maybe don't put platforms, in my backyard.
Yeah.
Although, actually, I'll take that back. I would allow that. I would 100% allow that.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody
I'll
came
live
to
in
me,
the suburbs, fuck my neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take my fence down. My dog doesn't
Tell
run off.
my HOA to suck it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, they found some crude down here, some natural gas or something.
That bitch is throwing $2,000 a day in royalties.
Yeah. Sorry about your privacy fence.
But it's just I don't understand why we can't have nice things anymore.
I mean, and so let me ask you this question, just as the kind of playing the clown here. I mean, is this getting any kind of coverage in Dallas? I mean, are people?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like in
nothing up here. Nothing.
Up here. I mean, what about up to Austin? Making some noise down there. Houston kind of area. I mean,
no, you know what?
It's in that little bubble.
Yeah, I'm kind of running through my sort of mental Rolodex of all.
I mean, I had no idea this was going on until you and I talked, and we were like,
right.
Hey, you seen this? And I'm like, what the?
Yeah, so the Corpus Christi Caller-Times is doing a lot of coverage. The Jetty in Port Aransas, their local paper, is doing a lot. And honestly, the way that I found out about it, there's a guide on Instagram, this cool tattooed fly fishing guide chick, Casey Bones, and the first time I ever heard about this was about a week after we closed on our house in Rockport. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
What?
Yeah. Huh? What? Who? Yeah.
Sorry, beg pardon?
Talked to her a little bit. Then I started doing some more digging. And I was like, oh, this is not good.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody that's interested in staying abreast of what's going on from the sort of anti-development, anti-VLCC terminal perspective, there's a group on Facebook. It's a group called the Port Aransas Conservancy. So you can find them on Facebook. You can find them on the web.
Port Aransas Conservancy.
Yeah, PortAransasConservancy.com, which is they run a pretty loose program, but they're sort of spearheading the information aggregation from all the various news sources and collecting a lot of the scientific articles that relate to, things like how dredge material affects, seagrass beds. And so, real good information there.
They have a top 20 concerns, which is pretty.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
and some of this stuff you're like, oh my God. So it's just like things you don't think about, like the increased risk of a larger storm, the height and intensity of storm surge due to the fact you've taken a 50-foot bay and made it 75 feet.
Right, yeah.
So now more people – so that person who's like, man, I got me a new high-paying job. Guess what? Your house is underwater now. First time something comes through there.
Right. So where a lot of the science on that was writ large, became very self-evident, was during Katrina – when you have all this channelization of the marsh in Louisiana, which literally acted like superhighways for fucking storm surge.
Yeah.
And they're talking about channelizing nowhere near as far inland in Texas as you have in New Orleans. Yeah. But you're talking about the same sort of, you're exactly right.
It's the same principle.
It's the same principle, that channelization effect where you have storm surge that goes through a funnel and plays merry hell with everything behind it. It's a great example of that for Harvey. There's a community north of Rockport Fulton called Holiday Beach, which is a beautiful little bayside community. It's a great place. We looked at property there as well, and my wife still, I think, would probably like to retire there. And so the eye wall of Harvey went directly over, right over Goose Island State Park, which is right there just immediately east of Holiday Beach. There's a constriction between Aransas Bay. There's a long point between Aransas Bay that comes up from the south, from Aransas Bay and Copano Bay, that leaves just maybe a 1.25 mile cut between those two bay systems. So the eye wall comes through, it squeegees that storm system through this little channel, which goes all the way to the west, hits the west bank of Copano Bay, and as the storm surge recedes, you basically get a tsunami coming from the west to the east straight through Holiday Beach. And they got a 13.5-foot storm surge from that rebound effect because you've channelized that storm surge between two bays. Now imagine that, but through a much smaller straw.
Yeah.
Same volume of water, but now it's coming through a fire hose instead of a garden hose.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stand these things. And like you said, it doesn't I feel like you're
you feel powerless.
It's
you feel
very
totally
powerless, and it's why you've got to get involved with organizations. And I mean, that's, to me, half the problem is just they're doing this so under the radar, right? So
yeah, so perfect example of that is the harbor has the Port Authority, the Port of Corpus Christi. They've done it twice now, where they will release. They're looking for exemptions from rules, exceptions to rules, and they'll release 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. Requests for exemptions to the General Land Office. Unless you're watching Port Aransas Conservancy or you're watching the GLO's website, the Texas GLO's website, like a hawk.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that there's shit that's open for public comment.
Yeah. You're just going to be out of luck, I mean,
right.
So
you're never going to have an opportunity to even – you're going to find out that something is passed, and you're going to find out –
well, that's bullshit.
Right.
That ship sailed there.
That the public comment period is 8 months in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that hyper-local conservation groups – CCA is involved in this pipeline across Redfish Bay. They are pretty adamantly opposed.
Yeah.
The public comment period on that did end, but they did send like an email blast to all the members, asking.
Flood,
absolutely asking for, and that's the problem on the VLCC side right now is Port Aransas Conservancy is a small organization.
Yeah.
They can't generate 10 or 15,000 emails.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, and I think this is one of the things that, we've got to find a better way as sportsmen to, no matter what little group you're a part of, right? So if you're part of CCA, you're part of BHA, you're part of, you're part of the Mule Deer Foundation, you're part of RMEF, whatever, and granted, you're not hunting elk and mule deer. I mean, not that you can't in Texas, but you can. CCA is obviously going to protect those coastal waterways. But if we can find a way to get the communication that stretches where we can get these groups that, that by themselves are, a fart in the wind, but you start putting 4 or 5 of them together, and now you've got a big audience of people. You got a lot of voices, and you got a lot of talk out there. Because I think it's one of those things where, if one person who's even sitting around hears that and goes, "What are you talking about?" Oh, man, that sucks. That's one more voice out there who's telling another person who's telling another person, and that's how these things, I think, ultimately get stopped. You really start to shine a light on it, and that's where you're going to find, and the cockroaches scurry from the light,
The one organization that acts as sort of an omnibus of conservation organizations is TRCP.
Yeah.
And they're trcp.org. That's a Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, if you guys out there are not familiar with them. And everybody and their dog is a member of the TRCP at an organizational level. You've got Delta, you've got Ducks Unlimited, you've got CCA, you've got RMF, you've got
the whole
Wild Turkey Federation. I mean, it is. You have Pheasants Forever.
Yeah.
Pick your niche group that you support. If it's a duck group or an upland group or big game in the West, whatever it is, chances are that organization is a member of the TRCP who serves a function as sort of a clearinghouse for nationally important multi-organizational conservation issues. Right now, they're spending a lot of their focus talking about wildlife passages over roadways, right? Like these right-of-ways, these big flyovers for, especially in the West, where you have all these interrupted migrations, especially with like elk and antelope, where now you're doing wildlife overpasses where these animals can cross, interstate highways without getting flattened, without having an artificial boundary on their migration. It's that in and of itself just these wildlife corridors stand the possibility of connecting giant pieces of public land into a contiguous piece of Mountain West habitat that hasn't existed as contiguous land in generations.
Yeah.
It's a very worthwhile organization. You can support them financially, or you can support any of their members financially.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, go to TRCP's website, sign up for their emails, and you'll get a digest of sort of what the top level conservation priorities, what the lobbying efforts are going towards at a national level, and it's everything from protecting waters of the United States protections, which are being overturned right now, to doing wildlife corridors.
So one of the things I've talked about a little bit is just kind of the, let's say you're sitting in a bar, like we're at the British Line here in Frisco, and let's say you're having a conversation, with somebody who is like, man, that sounds like a bunch of hippie bullshit. What's your kind of conversation back to that person? How, I think a lot of times people just don't say anything back because they're like, oh, crap, I don't even know how to respond back. So what would you say to somebody who was like, man, that sounds like hippie bullshit?
The funny thing is, I very rarely find it necessary to give a rebuttal to something like that.
Yeah.
When you talk to most normal people, and especially when you're talking to them face-to-face and alcohol's involved, and you're not on social media being a goddamn
asshole.
Being a keyboard warrior, nobody wants to see the land wrecked.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see beautiful wild places destroyed. And so there is, I think, a huge amount of common ground between the left and the right. Mike Lee's assholery notwithstanding.
Sure.
Still hate that guy, man.
I mean,
cannot stand that dude.
Every single time I see it, I just like, oh,
God.
Because I follow him. We follow him on social media now, and so I just see him, and I'm just like,
purpose?
fuck you. Well, I mean, just like keep your enemies close, type thing, So it's just like,
Jesus. No, I think there's a huge amount of common ground, and
100%.
I was really, really. I've been very happy with the guy that seems to be leading the outreach effort from the sort of left-wing / non-consumptive, freeloading user segment of the outdoor industry is Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia, who is himself a hunter, aside from being, basically the best climber in history in North America. But he understands that there is no room for these divisions, that these hikers and photographers and bird watchers should not be looking down their nose at hunters, and that hunters need to step up and realize that these non-consumptive users, to a certain extent, share a passion for preserving the places that we all love.
Yeah. That we have a shared thing, right? We're in this together, right?
Yeah, so if somebody comes at me with the that smells like communist bullshit, I guess really the only rhetorical tactic that I would have at my disposal at that point is to get to the bottom of why they feel that way. Why?
It's the way you get to most things. You just ask questions,
right? It's why. Why is this important? You're going to come down to two camps. One, you're going to find people that legitimately do not give a flying fuck about the outdoors.
Yeah.
Just do not care. Tear up the bay. Don't
Burn
give a
it,
shit.
fuck it.
I don't care. Never going to go there. Fucking whatever. Coat it all in oil. Don't care. And then you're going to come down into another camp of people who believe, because of the tactics that have been used by a lot of, especially left-leaning environmental organizations over the years, that it's just a bunch of doomsaying, that the consequences can never be that bad. And so, really honestly, I think really the root problem behind that question, this is a revelation to me. This is a great question, Abe. You've done a great job as host, because I've had a revelation. And the revelation is this. we are entering a period where people refuse to believe science that contradicts their beliefs.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a fervently held belief that all environmentalist claims are bullshit, they're overwrought, you can't possibly really destroy things forever, you're going to have a hard time getting through to that person with evidence.
Yeah. I mean, like you said,
they will reject it out of hand.
Yeah, there's just nope.
That's bullshit. It's just hippie bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think maybe the guy in your scenario, maybe he's not reachable.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you have definitely better than a coin flip chance of reaching that guy, but I think you've got 10 or 20% of people on either end of the spectrum that are just going to dig their heels in, and they don't give a shit. If it contradicts what their feelings say, they don't care.
So Bill Burr kind of has this funny thing about, like, crazy people. Like, all normal people kind of have this, like, duty to stop crazy people.
Right.
And that everybody should just kind of have a chloroform rag, and every time they see a crazy person, you just kind of, like, everybody jumps on him. You tattoo possibly the next Hitler on his forehead. And everything's good. So maybe that's what we do. You're like, this guy's an asshole, and because he's probably an asshole and beats his wife, if that's the way he thinks, right? So.
Yeah, so if there's anybody out there in that camp right now who thinks that.
Who's just shouting at the radio.
Right, yeah, screaming at the computer right now, definitely has Pornhub open in another tab. Hey, no judgment.
Yeah, I mean.
But so. There is established science for this problem of dredge killing seagrass beds. That has actually happened before. That's proven factual science that has happened. Not in some exotic location, has happened right here in Texas. So between 1965 and 1974. It was suspected that maintenance dredging was causing large-scale loss of seagrass cover in the lower Laguna Madre, which, if you've ever been down there, you want to be one of the most beautiful bay systems in the world. Go to the Laguna Madre. Go to Port Mansfield. Go to Padre Island. Go fish those waters. It's gorgeous. So there was additional dredging in 1988. And so they had studied in these two different dredging periods light attenuation and sediment suspension and precipitation from dredge spoil. And so conducting an analysis of seagrass death during these events between 3 months and 15 months after the dredging projects revealed that reduced light attributable to dredging in 4 of the 8 subdivisions of the study area, including the most extensive seagrass meadow in the study area, concluded that precipitate sure, we're going to run with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Killed the seagrass, and it did it up to 2 kilometers from the nearest dredge disposal area. That's 1.2 miles. If you don't speak metric. So, and those seagrass meadows continued to die up to 10 months after the dredging. So, we've studied this. We've seen it. We have the evidence for it. We know this is a thing that actually happens. I'm not talking out of my ass. Port Aransas Conservancy is not making stuff up. This is a thing that happens when you stir up all this bottom sediment into these very, very delicate seagrass beds. And
let's put it this way. When Mount St. Helens erupts,
right,
shit dies around it.
That's exactly right.
It's the same thing. It's just above water.
And I like to make fun of pandas because it's literally the dumbest goddamn animal on the planet. Like, you have to make them watch panda porn just to get them to bone. Like, it's an animal that's not even smart enough to reproduce. And I'll admit that seagrass is a little bit like that. It is like the biggest snowflake, delicate flower bullshit plant as far as what's required to get it to grow and be healthy.
Yeah.
The good news is Texas is a bullshit factory.
Yeah.
And we have 250,000 acres of this shit that makes for some of the most beautiful bay systems habitat in the world. And now we are literally halfway through very serious discussions about whether to just run a fucking bulldozer through this. And so that's why I'm here.
No,
that's why I wanted to talk to you about this.
Well, I mean, like I said, man, I when you were like, hey, I want to talk about this because, I mean, obviously you've been on the podcast before and we've talked about a lot of things.
God, I bet your ratings sucked. On
no, man, I tell you what, it was the last time you were on, it was I got a couple people who never comment about it were like, man, that podcast is badass.
Oh, cool.
But the thing about this to me is just like I didn't even know until you were like, hey, this is something I want to talk about. And so I started looking into it and I'm just like, what the fuck?
No, that was another great question.
You know?
You were asking, like, does this story have any legs outside of the Coastal Bend? And the answer is no.
So if I'm sitting at home right now and I'm like, man, fuck that. We're not taking this shit. Is there somebody I can reach out to? I mean, obviously the Port A Conservancy.
Yeah, definitely go. Port Aransas Conservancy is where you can. So one of the best things that the Port Aransas Conservancy does with their Facebook page is every time you get one of these runs of regulatory submissions that are open for public comment, they post the links.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, it's permit number blah, 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 or it's this one the list. Yeah. Tell you exactly which one you want to comment on.
Yeah.
And so it's, even if you don't live down there, even if you don't have a direct financial interest in it the way that I do, if you just love that part of the coast, if you fish there, if you duck hunt there, if you alligator hunt there, I don't care what you do. If you just lay out on the Rockport Beach with your family, if you enjoy the Coastal Bend, get involved.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is go to this good Facebook page and website, get the information, keep track of what's going on, and use your outdoor voices.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee you contact your state legislator.
Yeah.
Granted, the state legislator in Dallas, but he gets 10 or 15 phone calls, 10 or 15 emails.
Right.
There's going to be a meeting in which he goes, "What?" or she goes, "What is this? I don't why are these people contacting me about this? What is going on?"
Or even better, talks to their colleagues
correct
from the Coastal Bend.
Exactly.
Hey, what's going on down there?
Why is this happening?
Let's have this conversation.
Exactly.
Because our state representatives are a lot more susceptible to public pressure than the Port of Corpus Christi, who gives less than zero fucks what you think about anything.
But they're the light that can shine, that can shine this and go, whoa.
I think that one of the best things that could be done right now is to email the mayor of Corpus Christi and tell him that you appreciate him stepping in and telling the port, hey, the optics on this are real bad. We need to sit down and talk about this with Port Aransas, with some of the local stakeholders, because it doesn't look like anyone is on your side.
Yeah.
Why are you shoving this down everyone's throat, and why are you being so aggressive about it?
Yeah. There's some fuckery afoot.
Oh, there's fuckery afoot for
sure.
There's
definitely some fuckery afoot.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, there's a Sasquatch somewhere. There's something's going on. So, but man, I tell you, I'm like just sitting here talking about it. Like I said, I got into looking at this. I tore apart this PAC page and just was like, man, this is wow.
It is.
Wow.
It's such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And it's a place where no matter what you like to do, there's room for it there. If you're trying to go down there, you're working on your Hunt 41 and you need your Gulf Coast, model duck, you can do that there. If you're looking for a 30-inch trout, you can do that there. If you want to catch the redfish run or the flounder run, if you want to run offshore, if you want to fish inshore, if you want to gator hunt, if you want to bird watch, stand up paddleboard, surf. I don't give a shit.
Just like you said, sit on the beach and get some sun.
You can drive over the JFK Causeway, hang a right, and drive your ass all the way to Port Aransas, which is the longest contiguous piece of beach in the United States. You can do that.
Yeah.
If you want to overland that.
Have fun.
It is a playground the likes of which exists nowhere else in the United States.
Yeah.
And I find no reason to heavily industrialize that area.
Agreed. I think that's said it best, you know? I mean, we got to figure out a way to stop this. We got to figure out something to get in the way of this because there's no reason for it, like you said. So,
all right.
You got a new dog.
I did get a new dog.
Talk about puppies
Lord,
and
Jesus.
Talk about other issues that you should write your state senator about. Sharp puppy teeth, sharp puppy claws.
No, he's let's see. He's about to be 11 months old.
Yeah, so he's kind of like
10 months old.
He's big now. He's not little.
Yeah, no, we're working on hole conditioning right now.
I saw the little looked like a little.
Yeah, so I named my force training buck, which if you don't speak retriever is when it used to be force fetch, now it's hold conditioning, which is there's a lot less violence involved.
Yeah.
It's a much more positive reinforcement program. I'm using Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, which is it's a guy named Josh Parvin, another guy named Barton Ramsey. Barton Ramsey owns Southern Oak Kennels, which is the kennel that my dog came out of. Have a training program that you can subscribe to. It's all online. It's all videos, very well produced. That takes you from, the day your dog gets home to doing swim by. And so hold conditioning is a little like force fetch. You're training the dog to never let go. So I started calling him, and you use a training buck, which is a wooden dowel. Kind of looks like a wood dumbbell, basically.
Yeah.
You use that because when you start, you don't want the dog to have any negative associations with bumpers. So you switch to the training buck, and I named my training buck Jack because he'll never let go.
He'll never let go. That was the best caption. I was laying in bed. I was just flipping through, and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, hashtag there was room on that goddamn door, Rose.
Just like, have you seen the breakdown of people who have been like take screenshots and like you could very easily.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's like a Jack outline on the door.
It's like this is a wormhole that you did not need to go down. Whoever did this, I appreciate you doing it. But so how's it going? So 11 months.
Yeah. 10 months.
10 months. Yeah.
10 months. So he was born November 30th. So yeah, it's coming up on 10 months. Dude, it's Cornerstone is a fantastic program, and my first two dogs came out of American Field Trial Lines. They were all go no quit, just big hard dick, hard charging, crazy American dogs that did not have an off switch. And we're like that from day one. And so my wife and I drove over to Mississippi and picked up this puppy and drove his ass 10 hours home, and he slept the whole way and never made a sound. And I was like, well, okay. Well,
this is different.
That's different. So these English Labs, out of Southern Oak are a completely different animal, and as far as I'm concerned, a far superior animal.
I have an American Lab. He's like that,
right.
And Max, Austin's dog, is an English Lab, and he's just a big. I mean, we're out teal hunting the other day, and he goes, and he's like, Max, and he gets off, and he swims out there. At no way was it like, boom. It was just like, all right, I'm going. Just like slow and steady, methodical. Did what he's supposed to do. Didn't do it at 10, did it about 5.
When this dog is working, it's like he's been shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And then when he gets home, it's like having a lab statue, or just like it's like a monument to cuteness. Like when he wants to play, but he's not a pain in the ass about it.
Yeah.
Like he's just it's this black and white personality that those dogs are worth every one of the considerable pennies that you pay for them, because they They do have an off switch. They're literally the most wonderful, calm, biddable, just really easygoing dogs in the house. And then, I'm sure that half your listeners have seen, Barton's, Southern Oak Kennels videos of Red doing a 30-yard launch off the bank, and that's what they're like in the field. They're they're insane. Go, yeah. So the training's going really, really well. I mean, this dog's doing, he's done lining memories past 200 yards. He's worked off a winger that a buddy of mine owns and worked that out to, like 100 yards. He's doing, he's doing multiple, hand-thrown marks. We're going through hold conditioning right now, so we're not doing any retrieves. We're just doing nothing but hold conditioning. Just hold conditioning. We just have started transitioning from the buck to bumpers. We'll get to feathers in about we'll probably get to oh, shit. I had not thought this through. Right in the middle of hold conditioning, I'm going to leave for a week and go antelope hunting, and my wife's probably going to undo like a month of training. Fuck. Cool, man. About the time we transition to feathers, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, congratulations. I've gotten you this far.
And we're going to backtrack 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll hunt him. He's going to hunt a few times, second split, under very controlled conditions, like on some private stuff, hunting ponds where it's, just where we've only got 2 or 3 guns. I'm not even going to shoot. I'm just going to work dogs. And so, but next year he'll be in the full rotation, and we've got, I've mentioned before, it's we've got just a number of very, very good dogs that we're fortunate enough to work with, and
good dogs, awesome to have, man.
Yeah, I did since the last time I was on, my old dog Cade that was retired, he did pass.
Worst thing to go through.
It was not good. I was glad that it was quick.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing worse than that.
He almost made it to 13.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a 10-year-old dog at home who's been with me since a little puppy, and it's like a constant thing that just like, fuck. It's the worst thing. Somebody at work the other day was like, I was like, man, I don't know what we were talking about, but I was like, man, I'd just rather die before my dogs did. They're like, you think you would rather you die before your dogs? I'm like, yeah,
man.
I'm cool.
Trade me.
Cool with that.
Put me in, coach.
These people looked at me were like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm fine. I'm take that all day long.
It the one thing that has started to rear up this week with hold conditioning is like I said, you're not doing any retrieving work or anything during hold conditioning. But because of that, now he's not getting work twice a day. All he's doing is just holding.
Oh. A little bit more energy.
Little pin up aggression.
Exactly. Got to get that out.
God, seriously, we made the transition from the buck.
You were talking about that Pornhub tab earlier.
Yeah, we made the transition into bumpers today, and I pulled that bumper out, and that dog lost his goddamn mind. Like
it's amazing how
crazy.
I'm floored by the fact that that's just like, it's just the way they are. It's just like in them to do that. And
it would take a whole other podcast to describe the difference between a really high-bred, sort of like a lean Mac, sort of American retriever.
Yeah.
Versus a really well-bred English Labrador. They're like 2 different breeds.
Yeah.
And neither one of them is necessarily. But I'm not gonna lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. I'll take an English Lab from now on. It's nothing but straight English Labs for me. Yeah.
As somebody who's had both.
Yeah. It's So yeah, Southern Oak Kennels. If you want to get on the waiting list, because I think it's about 2 years.
Have you sign up today?
Yeah, sign up today because Barton's got a backlog.
So have you been out? Have you done any teal hunting yet?
I have not. No, I have not.
Murderously slow.
Yeah, none of the places that we teal hunt are really holding any birds right now, and so My wife's been out of the country all week this week. I'm going to spend this coming weekend with her, and then I'm gone for a week. So I'm going to miss teal season this year. But, yeah, that's exactly right. It's been a nothing doing sort of teal season so far, except unless you're on the coast.
Yeah. I mean, that and dove season has been the same way. I mean, dove has been just murderously murderously
absolutely
slow. So,
hey, guys. Sorry for the second interruption, but we wanted to make sure that everybody knew and was aware that we have a brand spanking new YouTube channel that you've got to go check out. We've got weekly content about the outdoors, hunting, fishing. We've got a whole bunch of different personalities that are going to show up on that. So make sure you go over to YouTube, you hit the subscribe button, and start checking out our weekly videos. I'm personally going to be having a weekly video about deer hunting, public land, and just my entire deer hunting adventure this year, with the saddle, with public land, with some of the private land spots we've got. So there's something for everybody in there. So make sure you go over to our YouTube channel and you check it out. I know those boys, Austin and Jordan. We've got a ton of duck hunting videos coming out with those guys. We've got a ton of cooking videos. So make sure you go and check out the new Stormwater Creek YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe. Thanks for listening, guys, and back to the podcast.
So murderously slow dove season.
Yeah, murderously.
It's been my experience.
Murderously slow is a good way to put it. We've got a piece of private up in Oklahoma that I swear it's a cornfield, and it's been harvested by the world's worst, least efficient corn harvester. If you took a C-130 of corn and airdropped it on this field, you couldn't have more waste than this 125-acre cornfield. There's 40 dove in there.
Yeah. They're just not here.
Unreal.
I mean, they're not even in my backyard.
We haven't had. I had an Instagram or a Facebook memory or whatever on like the 9th, and I'm wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
Last year.
I mean, there's definitely
It's hot. It's dry.
They're just not here. Yeah.
Nah. Last year we got drowned out like it rained almost every damn day of September last year, and then this year
we're 18 days into it.
Yeah, we can't catch a drop of rain, and it's still 100 friggin' degrees. So,
I mean, the water level was low, real low. So we graduated to a big boy boat.
I saw that.
So,
saw that. What's its name?
The SS Gribble.
There you go.
So opening day of teal season, the Gribble went out and the Leaky Creek. So we had a couple buddies who I said, hey, you may take – I'm going on the Gribble. You can take the creek out. They had to paddle most of the way. With that surface drive, we were able to just power right through. But they were having to paddle because it was so shallow in that little John boat. But it was rough. I mean, last year when we went out to scout ducks at the same place, we were able to make it out in this place we go to, no problem. This year we went out, we stopped. We had to physically get out of the boat because it was on the ground. It was just there was like, nope, we're not getting through here. We're to the minimum that the surface drive could go. Only an airboat would make it past this, And so we're it's crazy.
Talking about airboats, I think day before yesterday, it was either yesterday or day before yesterday, was the 7-year anniversary of us sinking the airboat.
Sinking an airboat. How did you sink an airboat?
Oh. So an airboat is basically a pie plate, right?
Yeah.
You put your finger on the edge and you push any part of the pie plate under the surface of the water. Down she goes. And so I'm going to change the names and the places. So we have this airboat and we're in Vietnam. We're in a bay in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine who's named Sam Squatch turned that boat with this boat is very new to him. It's his first airboat. Turns this boat with the rotation of the prop and dunks the back left corner of the boat, and down she goes.
Down she goes.
Down she goes in about 4.5 feet of water. Enough where he had about a foot of one side of the boat, which is laying on its side. about 1 foot of this boat sticking up above the surface of this bay in Vietnam. And,
How do you even get that out of the water? I mean, you get another boat and play tug of war?
That whole shit show. So they get picked up by some fishermen that are passing by. They get back to the house that we're staying in Vietnam, and call Boat US, Towboat US. Tell them what the situation is. All right, well, we'll meet you guys there in Vietnam first thing in the morning, and true to their word, they show up. And so we have another boat, one of our boats, and we follow Towboat US. It's me and one friend of mine on this one boat. It's everybody else is on Towboat US, and we have another friend, who's with Sam Squatch on the Towboat US, and we'll call him Ballbuster. And Ballbuster's whole thing is that he is busting your balls 100% of the time. He has,
regardless of the fact that you dumped an airboat in the 100%. Fucking
he has
ocean.
one speed, and that is ball busting. And so
you just gave that guy his Christmas.
Oh my God, that's 100% right. So we're pulling up on the airboat, this side sticking out of the water. This is during September, and so we've got a bunch of Texas rig decoys that have been clipped to the cage of this airboat, and they're in a little bitty knot, just maybe 2 or 3 square feet.
Yeah.
Just nothing but just packed in teal decoys with their asses sticking out of the water. And the first thing that Ballbuster says, he comes up next to Sam Squatch and pats him on the shoulder. He goes, "That's a real good-looking spread you got there, buddy."
Awesome spread, man.
It's like, oh, fuck, this is going to go downhill fast.
Oh, dude.
Sam Squatch does not think this is fun.
No, I can imagine. Like you said, it's kind of his first. Whew.
Towboat US, dude jumps in the water, gets the boat hooked up. They get it flipped so that the boat's actually resting on its bottom. So now you have about 2 feet of cage sticking up above the water line. And, oh, God, I'm going to be in so much trouble with my hunting group telling this story. That's why the names and places have been changed.
No one knows.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
The boat's resting on the bottom. Now the cage is sticking up, and so now you got to drag this thing across this Vietnamese bay and get it to where, if you've never seen the transom of an airboat, there's a little bit of a scoop in the transom of the airboat to let the air from the prop out. And so what has to happen is you have to get that scoop, that lowest spot in the transom has to be above the water line, so now you can pump the boat out and refloat her. And so dragging this thing, it got it flipped upright, and Sam Squatch is super bitter at this point. He's he's just beside himself.
Cha-ching, cha-ching,
yeah,
cha-ching,
100%.
cha-ching,
Yeah, he's out the money,
cha-ching.
and he loves this airboat.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a beautiful boat. It's the boat. He bought the boat in Florida, and the previous owner was literally a welder at fucking NASA.
Oh wow!
So it has
So
the driver and passenger seat. The bench is in the back, the driver and passenger seat in the front. So it's a Florida-style airboat. And it has these 2 cup holders that have some of the most beautiful aluminum welds I've ever seen in my life. And when he has picked this boat up this spring of this year that this happened, he's telling me, yeah, this guy was a welder at NASA. You know what that means, right? This boat's at least 50% spaceship.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
Right.
This is a spaceship boat.
So a spaceship boat is on the bottom of the fucking bay. Sam Squatch is extremely upset about this. He's already gotten his balls busted about his decoy spread. And then Ballbuster is kind of standing about a step behind him. Sam Squatch kind of looks over his shoulder like, I know it's coming. And Ballbuster, this is the game that he plays, has a genuinely contrite look on his face. Meanwhile, me and my buddy Doc are back on his boat. Doc's like, no, here it comes.
No, this isn't good.
Ballbuster puts his arm around Sam Squatch and kind of gives him a little sidearm manly hug. And Sam Squatch goes, oh, man, it was such a nice boat. And without missing a goddamn beat, Ballbuster goes, oh, it's still a nice boat, man. It's just not as fast as it used to be.
She's not quite as fast. Oh my God. Jesus.
And that's when Sam Squatch, you can see him tense up, and it's like, oh, he's gonna kill him, and then he just kind of bends over, and starts laughing, and from then on, everything went fine. And then just to put an exclamation point on it, like we have gotten this boat back, got it back to the ramp, got it up on the ramp. We've poured Marvel's mystery oil through the engine. Like, we've called the airboat shop. What do we do? Airboat shop's like, get as much Marvel's mystery oil as you can through that thing. Displace all that salt water. We've poured all the Marvels through there. We are trailering this thing to the airboat shop in Da Nang, and blow a goddamn trailer tire.
Yes.
On an overpass.
Yes.
On the interstate with no spare.
Oh God. Jesus.
So, if any of you in the listening audience are like, man, this got to be cool as shit to hunt with. No, that's a trap. It's a trap.
A fucking boat. I mean, you know about our boat story. So we go to buy. So we go down to pick up the boat, right?
Right.
We're like, man, this thing is badass. Austin has just basically stolen this boat from these people because they're like, get this thing out of here.
Right, just get it out of here.
Get it out of here.
Yeah,
it's in great shape, right? The only reason this guy's getting rid of his boat, he owns a dog kennel down in Madisonville, and he's like, I bought this thing to go out with my son. My son doesn't hunt anymore. He moved to California.
Oh.
I don't go out on the boat anymore because every single person who I raise dogs for wants me to go out with them and hunt on their boat. So this boat I've bought sits here.
Right.
And so he takes all of his dogs up in the heat of the summer up to Illinois.
Oh, he's one of those guys.
Yeah. And so he's like, he's gone.
Right.
His wife's like, I'm tired of this thing needs to go. And so Austin's just like, hey, man.
That's how Sam Squatch bought his boat, too.
Yep.
Was him and the owner and the wife were getting divorced. Was like, get this thing out of here.
Go. Yeah. So he was like, here's how much I'll give you. And she was like, I'll call you back. And like 30 minutes later, come and get this sumbitch. So we go down there and get it. And
where was it?
It was in Madisonville.
Oh, Madisonville.
Yeah. So we get down to Madisonville. We, obviously he's seen the boat already, but I'm with him, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this thing is awesome. It's it's a badass Go Devil with a surface drive. I'm like, we come up in this world. So we hook it up, and we're like, man, he gives the money to the lady. She's like, good luck. We leave. We get to that Buc-ee's in Madisonville. We're like, all right, we got to get some gas in the truck to make it down to Houston because we were going to Full Draw in Houston.
Yeah, okay.
So we're sitting there pumping gas at Buc-ee's. Man, this is awesome. We buy a couple monsters for the road and some boudin.
Okay, Kyle.
And we're drinking some monsters and eating boudin, and we're like, man, this thing's badass. And I kind of look out my rearview mirror and get quiet. He looks over and he's like, is that smoke? And I was like, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not having a stroke. But yeah, that's smoke.
Yep.
So we're like, fuck. So we pull off, shredded a bearing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're in Huntsville at this point. We're just like limping back. We spend the next 5 hours like trying to piece together, get the hub, put new hubs on. We were like, what are we going to do? Thankfully, AutoZone, people who listen to the podcast have heard this, but it was a nightmare.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
I missed that. No, I totally missed that one.
So we sat in an AutoZone parking lot for almost 5 hours while we went in and we're like, hey, we need this. And they were like, so they like walked out. They were like, okay, well, at first they were a little bit like, okay, well, like, do you want to pay for that? And we're like, can we just go see if it fits? And they walked outside and they're like, oh, no, y'all good. Do whatever you need to do. Right. You're not going anywhere. Yeah. So we were like, well, let's just, fuck it. Let's just replace the hub. They didn't have a hub that fit. Well, okay, so we tried, all these things. Finally, we're just like, let's put the old hub back on. Just bang the bearing in because it wouldn't. They had so we just took a hammer and banged this bearing in. We're like, just packed it full of grease, and we're like, this will get us
2x4 and a small sledgehammer.
Exactly. This will get us to Northern Tool where we can buy just a whole new set, just a whole new axle.
Yeah,
we were just like, just drop the whole thing out. So we finally, we were supposed to be at the place we were going, Southern Star, at like 7 o'clock. We were there at 12:30 at night.
perfect. Hey,
Yeah.
you guys are a lot more resourceful than me. I was coming back.
I'd have been screwed.
I was coming back from Rockport, towing my boat. I've got an 18-foot Panga center console, and I'm towing that thing, and I have just hit. I'm a horse who's seen the barn. I've been driving all day. I've just hit the 35 bridge over the Trinity River, and feel a jerk, and I'm in the left lane, and literally get fucking passed by my own trailer tire.
Oh, shit.
I was like, oh, shit, that's not good.
Oh, no.
And I'm on the phone with my mom when this happens. I was like, being a good son, called my mom, checking in.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to go right now.
Yeah, sorry.
And so it bounces ahead, hits a road construction sign, bounces back at me. Fortunately, lands the HOV, fuck my HOA. The HOV lane is closed because it bounces over the retaining wall into the HOV lane and then goes over the side of the bridge.
It's gone forever.
Oh, a buddy of mine was like, he's like, look at you, man. You're so conservation-minded. Even, like, in the middle of a fuck-up, you're creating, like, habitat for baby gar.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck you, man.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to guess that was Ballbuster.
no, that was actually Sam Squatch.
Oh.
Yeah, and so here I am, like, in the left-hand emergency lane in a curve on the bridge on I-35, convinced that
super safe place.
Oh my God!
So you're just being rattled as the 18.
Every second, I was like, all right, I'm gonna take 20 seconds to get this boat off my truck. Because when I get rear-ended, it's a pretty low probability that it happens while I'm unhitching the trailer. But I am gonna get rear-ended.
Yeah, this is happening.
I called fucking Dallas Police Department. I called Sam Squatch. Was like, hey, here's what's going on. Like I'm in a real fucked up place.
Get here.
Like, what should I do?
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, call 911 so they can get a cop out there to block traffic, and then, like, any wrecker will be able to get you. I was like, yep, okay, cool, man. I called 911 in Dallas. A cop never shows up.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend who's on a very popular radio program in Dallas.
Okay.
Who's very tight with the Dallas Police Department. And if you're in Dallas and you're listening to this, you know the radio show I'm talking about. Who pulls strings to get a fucking Dallas sheriff out there to block traffic for me.
Jesus.
But he shows up 45 minutes after this has happened.
Yeah, he's like,
I literally...
Sorry, I was solving a murder.
I am 2 inches on the right-hand side. I'm 2 inches inside the yellow line. About to get scraped by every car that goes by. Oh. I can't do anything. I finally have disconnected the truck, moved the truck up 100 yards. So, fine, whatever. Take the boat out. I got 3 words for you. Agreed value policy.
Yeah.
Finally get a wrecker. Get it up to the trailer shop. So, where I'm going with this is, my advice to you, as your doctor.
Yeah.
I would advise you to get Vault trailer hubs.
Vault trailer hubs.
Which I did not know about until this shit show happened. And then a guide buddy of mine down on the coast is like, dude, that's all we run. Like, we would never run anything but. He's like, those fucking seals on the backside of regular trailer bearings.
Yeah.
No matter how good they're packed, no matter how good they're greased, all it takes is a pinprick, and you get 1 or 2 drops of salt water inside there.
Boom.
And it's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So Vault hubs are, I paid like $515 on my trailer for a 2-inch square torsion axle, or no, it's 2-inch straight axle with Vault hubs, and it's a completely closed system. It's like it's a welded closed system.
There's no getting into it.
It has some kind of crazy grease in it that's like super thick when it's sitting still, and then as it heats up, it just turns into an extremely viscous oil.
Yeah.
So it's self-bathing. It's completely maintenance-free for 5 years. Has an unlimited mileage warranty, and then you can pay an extra $50 on the warranty card to stretch that to 10 years unlimited mileage.
Done.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, it's and you imagine the bust out another 1,000 jokes.
100%.
Yeah, and you're just like, fuck this. You
and
know?
it's
that kind of shit is so worth it.
It's exactly right, because if you travel to hunt, if you travel to fish, especially if you travel to do both like we do,
yeah,
your axle is going to shit the bed.
It's only a matter of time.
It's going to happen.
Yep.
And I don't for a second believe that this axle is like, this is my forever axle.
Yeah.
It will literally last a decade.
Oh, if it's a forever axle, that means you're getting rid of your boat tomorrow.
Yeah, fuck that. But if this thing lasts 4 or 5 years, because my boat is 5 years old, I'm on my 3rd goddamn axle.
Yeah.
With a properly maintained, religiously greased, trailer. So
it's just a So that's a lot of fun to have to deal with.
I can't believe you changed a fucking axle in a parking lot.
That's pretty
amazing.
So we took it to Southern Star and we changed it with borrowed tools. We went to Northern Tool. We went to Walmart, and we bought everything we needed. Granted, I'm just the sexy assistant. Austin's doing all the work.
He's the welder.
I'm just like, what do you want me to do?
That's my friend Daniel.
Yeah.
It's like he knows how to fix everything. Just hand him tools.
Yeah.
And beer.
So I'm like, what do I need to do? He's like, just like do this, do that. So we fixed. We put it all together. We got it home, and it was perfect. All new hubs, all new axle, all new leaf springs, and so she's right and tight now.
And that's fine. But about this time next year.
Yeah.
Vault hubs. Bro.
Yeah, vault hubs.
Vault
okay.
hubs, bro.
Vault hubs. You hear that, Austin? If you're listening to this, which I'm sure you're not, but vault hubs. It's but moving to a big boat like that has been that we had a lot of fun just going out opening day and just like we can sit in this boat and have, we got 4 people in this boat,
right?
And turn it into a blind, and we're gonna murder ducks this year.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. What do you think this duck season is gonna be like?
Sweet
Good?
murder.
Bad?
It's
I
a
mean,
lot of the habitat. The May when the May numbers came out, it was not looking great.
Yeah.
And the pond counts came out, and then this most recent round of numbers that came out about a month ago, that's showing some pretty steep declines for some species.
If we don't get some cold weather.
I think for Texas, it's going to be. I'm hesitant to make a call because it's a blessing and a curse kind of a year. We had pretty substantial rain, pretty significant rain through most of the summer. So you're going to have, I think, really good habitat conditions. You're going to have a lot of places that flooded up in the middle of the summer that are draining down, that are growing smartweed, that are growing, millet in places where, millet's widely planted, like up around, the Red River Valley. It depends. What does the rain look like in October? How much of that stuff floods back up to a good, 8, 10, maybe 12 inches versus how much of it, if you get too much rain, that's just under a yard of water, and now you're completely screwed. Or does everything get a perfect 8 to 10 inches of water, and now literally anywhere the ducks want to go, you have perfect habitat.
Which means you better be in that spot.
Spreads them out. Yeah. It
could be feast or famine.
I'm not going to be put on the spot by you, motherfucker.
I'm okay with that.
And call this season. I'm cautiously optimistic. Based on the quality of habitat from the summer rain that we got, I'm cautiously optimistic about what this fall is going to be like.
There seems like there's a lot of food, but I'm with you. It's just like, man, it's hard to tell. But it's going to be fun. We'll be out there either which way. So
honestly, at this point, with as much rain as we had over the summer, I would actually take slightly below average fall rain versus above average.
Yeah.
I think above average does more harm than good.
Pushes them into
I would rather have some of this stuff wither and die from drought
than
right now through like kind of middle of October than catch a few inches of rain and just become duck magnets because there's too many of them right now.
Yeah. Agreed.
And there's, that cornfield that I was talking about. God, if that thing catches an inch of water,
boom.
Oh, good Lord.
He's not gonna have to plant again.
And there's low spots in that field that could potentially
be very fruitful.
Yeah.
So, Well, man, I appreciate you being on the podcast.
I
and
appreciate being here as always, man.
Man, check out the Port Authority Conservation Conservancy.
Yeah, Port Aransas Conservation.
What did I say? I fucked you up. I totally. Oh my God.
The Port Aransas Conservancy.
Did I say Port Arkansas? I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah, Port Arkansas. No,
Port Arkansas.
It's the Port Aransas Conservancy.
Yeah.
The Texas CCA has some pretty good information about this pipeline. They've been pretty actively involved in that.
Make your voice heard.
Yeah.
However, talk to somebody about it.
Yeah. If you spend any amount of time down on the coast, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're laying out on the beach or if you're hunting or fishing or whatever you're doing. If the coast is important to you, the coastal bend, as you're probably aware, is one of the last best places in Texas, and it is in serious jeopardy. This is not a drill.
Yeah.
Take
a sip of coffee.
I'm not being a drama queen.
Yeah.
Step up and speak up for this beautiful place that we all like to go to.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, bud.
Nope. Thank you. As always, Brian. Thank you guys for listening. Go check this stuff out. Thanks. Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to us.